Let's try this again.
Did they hear me?
Yeah, I heard you praying. You're always praying.
Hi.
Sorry, Facebook keeps crashing. I don't know if it's my phone or Facebook. But we rebuke that so that we can try to talk to you guys. And then Atticus fell and hit his head.
He's happy now. We're all happy now.
We're all happy. Okay, so Jesus, please let Facebook work, let the live stream work.
Yay.
Hi, Stevie.
Hi, Stevie. Hi, Jessica.
Um,
You guys are persistent. I am so proud of you.
Sorry, everyone.
Hannah. Hi, Samantha. Okay. So, what we were just saying is, we were talking about my friend who, when she couldn't get a hold of anybody, she knew that she had the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
And that encouraged her. She was like, so that guy Jack Taylor said, whenever we have a disappointment, like we expect something to go a certain way and it doesn't go that way, it's because God is setting us up for a God appointment.
A new appointment.
Yeah. So
That's a great way to look at it. We've done that a lot in our life. I get very frustrated, and Lacey's like, "Yay! What are you doing, God?"
Like when the lights go out at the venue and they say the show's canceled.
Or we're on the way to the airport and we're late, and then there's a really construction everywhere. She's like, "Yay!"
We get to pray for everybody sitting in traffic.
Cody said he got saved today.
What?
Congratulations, Cody. That's awesome.
Wow. Yeah, Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this week, we should start with prayer. Right? That's what we said we're going to do.
Russ Richardson? Oh my
What's
gosh.
up, Russ?
I love you, Russ. I miss you.
Hi, Monica. Okay, listen. Hi, Matt.
Russ, are you in Alaska or are you home?
Okay. So we need to start praying because we keep saying we're going to pray and then we don't.
Okay.
Oh, she's going to rehab today. Pray for her full recovery. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Kristen's looking for a job. Okay, listen. I'm going to start praying. I'm going to pray for this live stream. And I'm so glad. And I want you to post any prayers that you want the community to be praying for. And we will go through and make sure we pray for you guys. But right now we're going to just listen. We're going to do a listen prayer. Do you know what? Somebody asked Mother Teresa one time what she prays, and she says, "I listen." And they said, "Well, does God tell you anything? What do you listen? What do you hear? What does God say?" And she says, "He listens." And you're like, what kind of prayer is that? But it's really holy. And so I think we just need to sit still for a minute. What do you think? I mean, I'll listen and then you can pray whatever you want to pray. And you guys can pray whatever you want to pray. So let's just listen for a minute.
Nobody can hear us very well.
Nobody can hear us? Hello! Well, you don't have to hear us when we're praying a silent prayer.
Is there a way? I don't think there is a way to turn the volume up.
Volume up. It's too quiet. Okay. I'm going to pray right now. Yes. Jesus.
I got something.
Yay.
Have you guys ever seen the movie March of the Penguins? Narrated by Morgan Freeman.
Oh, yeah.
Documentary. Well, in Antarctica, I think it's Antarctica, there's the largest gathering of penguins. And there's this like back and forth thing where the moms sit on the egg while the dad goes to get food. and then the dads come back and then trade off with the mom so she can go get food. It's just really crazy journey, but there's a part on there where when they come back, they have to find their wife. They have to find their mate, their partner. And they all look the same. Exactly the same. White and black little penguins. And there's, I think, over 1 million. And so they literally just walk around making their noise and until they hear their partner making their noise, and then they connect. And almost always they find each other, which is incredible. But I was just thinking of listening, that the Bible says that the sheep know the voice of the shepherd, and we can hear when he's speaking to us. This kind of goes back to week 1 about discerning what's from the Lord and what's not. But I was just thinking that, I don't know, I was just thinking about that scene and feeling like, God, how do you hear every single one of us? How do you listen to all of us and know that it's me talking to you? How do you hear Atticus's voice, or Lacey's voice, or Naveed's voice, Monica's voice, all these different voices? It's like, how do you... There was a scene on Evan Almighty, or is it Bruce Almighty, when God gives him his powers for the day, and he starts hearing all these people talking to him. He's like, what is that? And it was prayers. But anyway, I was just thinking about that scene, and just think that's an important part, is listening, and also crying out too. That's how we connect. That's how we find each other. Not that God needs help finding us, but anyway, that's what I saw.
That's awesome. And I think too, one of the things that's really important to me with the Reflect Love Back community is that I say this a lot, we honor our differences, our different voices. Everybody has a different voice for a reason. And we all have a part to shine. I say that. That's really important to me, because I think a lot of people don't realize that even if you say something that is exactly the same thing someone else said, when you say it, it will be different. People will hear it different, and coming from you, it will be different. So if it's something in your heart to share, and you feel like it's burning in there to share or to shine, then you need to do that, because just because we think something doesn't mean we need to say it. Let me say that again, because I was not the kind of person that was able to just keep a thought in my head without saying it when I was younger. Even an early Christian, there was times when I thought, well, I feel this really strongly, so I'm going to say it. And a lot of times it was not loving, and it was not the right time, and I wouldn't say it in the right way, so nobody received anything I said. Because culturally, I kind of grew up in an environment where we just were blunt about everything. We did not wait on timing, kind of screaming at each other through the grocery store. So you never have to tiptoe around knowing if somebody's mad at you or not. But that's not the way every culture is. And so a lot of times you have to wait till you're in a different environment for somebody to actually hear what you're saying. And usually when we did yell at each other in the grocery store, the results were never anything that was that positive. So it didn't even do the good thing that you would even want it to do. But I think just knowing that our differences are so important, and the way we do things are important. And if we can receive, even when it might be something we normally would get offended at, and just stop and say, okay, well, is Jesus in this, what this person is saying somewhere? Even if the delivery was full of cuss words, which I've heard God speak to me through somebody who just totally cussed me out, and I was like, first of all, I was like, you need some help. And then I walked away, and God was like, did you hear what I was trying to say through all that mess that my message came through? And I was like, oh, yeah, I guess I do need to think about some of those things. So if we can there was a time when, Jesus was, the lady that came to him in the middle of all the rich people and the Pharisees and the religious people, and a woman who she was a known sinner, and she came in, and she was like, she was not a sinner. She was a Samaritan. So this was a racial issue. She was half Jew and half something else, and they rejected her because she was not fully Jewish. And she came into the table, and she was wanting healing for her daughter, and so Jesus says to the woman when she's asked for healing, he says, "Why should I take the children's bread and give it to the dogs?" And what I think, and I talk about this in the Colossians video, and he's literally just called her a dog. And he's not telling her, I don't believe this was Jesus' thoughts towards her at all because of the way he responds. What he did was he exposed the thoughts of the people at the table. I think he was looking around at them and saying the question, to a woman who believed in God's goodness and in Jesus' goodness no matter what came out of his mouth. And Jesus was saying, do you think that this is the way I think of you? And she says, even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from the table. She wasn't offended. She heard that God was asking a question, or that Jesus was asking a question, and she had an answer. And he said, great answer, your daughter's healed. And he kind of like just put that into the faces of all of these judging, racially prejudiced people. He's like, look how much faith she has, and you don't have enough faith. You know, and these people who are supposed to be religious and supposed to be all wealthy, that they don't even have enough faith and humility to receive their miracles and their healing that God wants to give them. But she knew that Jesus was good. And so she, even though what came out of his mouth sounded like it wasn't good, she still trusted that he was good. And she got that amazing miracle for her daughter in that moment, because even when everything looked terrible, she kept going. So I think it's interesting that there are times when we can hear God, even in the mess that we hear. Somebody, you know, it comes through all of our flesh and all of our prejudice and all of our misunderstanding. Sometimes God's still speaking something that we can learn from if we could just humble ourselves and get it. Here you go. And that's what I was trying to say. You know, somebody had spoken really terribly to me, and God was like, yeah, I didn't say all of that, but some of that was from me. And I wouldn't have said it that way, but if you can humble yourself and hear me, then you can actually benefit from what just happened. So anyway, one of the things I think that's really important about what we just did in listening to God is we're showing that God is not, again, somebody that we talk at and just walk away. He's a real, living God. He's alive. He's a living God. He's not a statue that you go to and you look at like a rock and he just stares at you without seeing you, or ears to hear you, or a heart to understand, or, you know, he maybe and will get it and he maybe won't. He's a living God who hears every word that comes out of our mouths. He knows every thought we think. He knows all the pain in our hearts. And he is working everything together for the good of those who love him and are called according to his purpose. He's always working. So when we listen, it actually gives us a moment to have a sort of like a moment of like a dialogue of sitting with God and hearing his peace over every circumstance. Even if we can't hear words, we can start to feel his peace when we sit in his presence. Hey. You want it? We have it? So, it's interesting we're talking about this because this week, week 6, is called Subtlety, Religion, and Relationship. And, here. Going down. And so in a religious setting, you know, we just sort of repeat the rules and the law. And we listen to it and we try to work ourselves into obeying, and it is very much like a legal system. But in a relationship, we have conversations, we have the invitation to ask for understanding. And if we can't get understanding, we have the invitation to say, just like my kids sometimes don't get why, I can't give them what they want, but they'll let me hold them while they cry. And so we have this relationship with God that is alive, right? So, so this week, what I wanted to, this week actually, when we're studying the week 6 of the 12-week study, one of the Bible scripts in there is not right. We're supposed to do 2 Corinthians 3, and we did 2 Chronicles 3. But when we were doing 2 Chronicles, even 2 Chronicles 3 had a message that somebody posted.
The Solomon's Temple?
Yeah, Solomon's Temple.
I love that one, because I do construction.
You do?
Yeah.
I
mean, I do.
I mean, you love it. I just meant, do you love it?
I do. I love construction. I love measurements.
I just meant, do you love
building.
2 Chronicles 3 is what I meant.
Well, I just like hearing...
I know you love construction.
From a construction standpoint, hearing the measurements and the weights of things and the height and the width and how much material. Because when I listen to the stories in the Bible about how they built this, I'm like, what did they use for this? Or how did they make that? And how did they do this? And it's like all laid out very clearly. This is how they did it.
Love you, Monica. Sorry I have to go. Thanks for signing in. I like Legos. Does that count? Hannah says it
Sure.
absolutely counts.
It does.
But the thing is, and it's also like a message about his intentionality. Everything has to come in a certain order at a certain time and a certain amount for everything to hold up the way it needs to hold up. And we don't always understand what's coming. Like the way we had to build our house, we anticipated in case a flood comes. So we built our house with that in mind. When you go to Haiti, when I went to Haiti, they built with the anticipation of flooding and hurricanes. And when the earthquake came, they didn't have that anticipation. So it had this massive destruction. But now because they went through the earthquake, they have this thought of foreseeing what if there is an earthquake, and now they'll build their buildings differently.
With wood.
But the thing is, that's God. He sees each thing going on in our lives. He's building something. And he's building us up into something that can house his love more and more and more. Because what's going to last is not this body that's fading, but what's inside us. The Bible says, outwardly we waste away, but inwardly we're renewed day by day. So there's always more to learn about how to have love. Do you realize that if we didn't have people in our lives, we couldn't love, because love is patient. How would we have the ability to exercise patience? And also with whenever we're in relationship with God and we don't see things, there's patience, there's perseverance, there's character that's built. So it all comes in its own order and its own time. Hi, Janet. I've been thinking about you because we just found out that we're going to go to Harvest, and I'm going to see you. And I'm excited about that.
Tell everybody about that real quick. Make the announcement. We're in California.
Next week?
Wednesday
Tuesday?
and Thursday.
Wednesday we're going to be in California at Harvest
In Irvine.
in Irvine. We posted about it on Instagram, so you can check it out. But I wanted to read to you 2 Corinthians 3 because that's what's supposed to go in there. And if you guys want to read it, this is the Holman Christian Standard version. You can read it in any version. I think all of them have some truth. Obviously it's the words of God. It's just a difference of when you translate. Obviously, there's differences here and there, how people do it. But it says he's talking about the difference between religion and relationship, and he says. It says, are we beginning to commend ourselves again, or do we need, like some, letters of recommendation to you or from you? You yourselves are our letter, written on our hearts, recognized and read by everyone. It is clear that you are Christ's letter. People are reading you. I love that. If the people around you were to read you like a letter, if they were to look at your life, will they see Christ's writing a letter through your life? And that's what he says here. You are Christ's letter, produced by us, not written with ink, but with the Spirit of the living God, not on stone tablets, but on tablets that are hearts of flesh. We have this kind of confidence towards God through Christ. It's not that we're competent in ourselves to consider anything as coming from ourselves, but our competence is from God. So people a lot of times will say, I don't have enough self-confidence to do this or that, and I want more self-confidence. But what we need is not self-confidence, because that can only go so far. We recognize our shortcomings. What we need is God confidence. Then we can have, if God says it, then we can stand up, put our crown on, and go, and whatever happens is on Him. So the confidence we have in God will push us forward to do whatever He asks us to do, and whatever the results are on Him. Whether it's praise, it goes to Him. Whether it's criticism, it goes to Him. We don't take praise or criticism when we say yes to God, and it has to do with us saying yes. If we take criticisms because we didn't say yes, we should listen and start saying yes. But if we said yes and people are criticizing us, then we recognize it's not me they're coming against. It's God and what He asked me to do, or what His Word says. So you can be free from taking on the praise and worrying about your own pride and it making you fall and making you look foolish, and being, it says that pride is like a stench in the nostrils of God. Like when we are proud in our own selves, of our own selves, it doesn't smell good. And people can see that. When you see somebody who's arrogant, immediately you want to and then God says, I resist the proud and give grace to the humble. And that's kind of a different way of the kingdom operating. The kingdom of heaven on earth is a kingdom of humility. The fact that Jesus, the King of the universe, became a human was a humble thing to do for the God of the universe, to become a man and live among us and teach us how to be a son of God. That's amazingly humble. And our example is humility because of that. But it's also royalty at the same time. So where does our royal confidence come from? Does it come from ourselves being great? Apart from God, we can't do anything. We can't breathe. We don't, people are like, if you're proud of the, the color of your eyes, why? Did you make them? Did you pick the color? Did you invent it? No, it came from God. God gave it to you. So it's silly, even for me as a singer, being proud of my voice. Besides the fact that I don't have much confidence in it. But if God says go sing, I have total confidence. And I've seen it for all the years that I've sung, that He does something with it, even when it's terrible. He does what He wants. And so He does something in me that gives Him glory in my own mind towards Him. Like, I'm like, God, you did that. And then He does something in those who see it. And it's always going to be good. But it says, we have this kind of confidence towards God through Christ. It's not that we're competent in ourselves to consider anything as coming from ourselves, but our confidence is from God. He has made us competent to be ministers of a new covenant, not of the letter, but of the Spirit. So He's telling the difference between religion and relationship, between a rule in the sand and the Spirit that gives life to the rule. That's actually just like, that brings it to life and shows us why and what the life in it. For the letter kills, but the Spirit produces life. Now, if the ministry of death, chiseled in letters on stones, came with glory, He's talking about the Ten Commandments. He's talking about the law of Moses. So that the Israelites were not able to look directly at Moses' face because of the glory from his face, a fading glory. How will the ministry of the Spirit not be more glorious? And He's mentioning this time when Moses was on the mountain, he was in the presence of God, and his face shined so bright that people couldn't look at him, so he had to cover his face. And he said, if this happened to Moses under an old covenant, and before Jesus came, He's saying, how is the new covenant not more glorious than that? He says, for if the ministry of condemnation had glory, the ministry of righteousness overflows with even more glory. The ministry, in fact, what had been glorious is not glorious now by comparison because of the glory that surpasses it. For if what was fading away was glorious, what endures will be even more glorious. Therefore, having such a hope, we use great boldness. We are not like Moses, who used to put a veil over his face so the Israelites couldn't stare at the end of what was fading away. But their minds were closed. For to this day, at the reading of the Old Covenant, the same veil remains It's not lifted because it is set aside only in Christ. Even to this day, whenever Moses is read, a veil lies over their hearts. But whenever a person turns to the Lord, the veil is removed. Now the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. If you can sense that there is not freedom, then you can probably bet that the Spirit's not there. Because where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. I love freedom. And freedom is a scary and a dangerous thing, but it comes from love, and love casts out all fear. And it's a fearless kind of love that is rooted in freedom. And it's the best kind of love. And it's God's kind of love. Because where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. We all, with unveiled faces, are looking in a mirror at the glory of the Lord and are being transformed into the same image, going from glory to glory. For this is from the Lord, who is the Spirit. So the more that we look to Christ, it's like we're looking at a mirror to become what we're beholding. We become more like Him the more that we look to Him. Just like when you hang out with somebody every day, you start to talk like they talk and act like they act and do what they do. And when we look at Christ and we spend time in His Word and we spend time with Him and we spend time, putting our hearts listening for Him, we begin to reflect the love that He gives us back out to the world around us. And that's what we're talking about in this first month that we're going to give to the subscribers. That's what we're talking about in the study of Colossians, which is what we're studying in that first month. So that was 2 Corinthians 3. That's right. I was reading that. And that's really what I wanted to talk to you about with week 6 is the subtlety of religion versus relationship. This is something I find in my marriage is really important because there are times when I need to go through the motions so that I can get through. I have to go through the motions of just, like saying the right thing that I know I shouldn't just yell, "Shut up!" I should be more patient, and I should say, "Excuse me, I need a minute." And this may be a motion of patience, even though I don't feel patient at all. But it gives me a moment to actually, the more that I practice loving. Sometimes I don't want to love. Like, I don't want to, there's things that Josh, he really loves acts of service. That's his love language, one of his love languages. And sometimes he cares a lot. Like, I don't always think about this, but he notices it if the floor is full of crumbs because he doesn't like getting that stuck on his feet, right? I don't notice. But because he notices, I may be really tired and I don't want to sweep up the mess I just made, but because I love him and I know that it would be loving to him to do that, I may go through this act of service and just sweep the floor. But there are other days, babe, he's so far away. There are other days whenever I am so tired and I'm just full of overflowing love for my husband and I'm just excited because of love to sweep the floor. It sounds crazy, but I'm really happy to do it, and I do it with such love in my heart. And I'll go above and beyond that, and I'll maybe, do something else, acts of service-y, like make him his favorite cookies, which I haven't ever done, by the way. What I do? Gosh, he's frowning. You've never made me I don't know how to make snickerdoodles. That's his favorite. I should learn. But there's other things, like certain things, acts of service-wise, that he loves that I might do on purpose, like, around the house or whatever, and clean up his desk. Like, if I clean up his desk, he just, like, almost, like, cries. He's like, "Thank you for doing that. You didn't have to do that." It's something that is not expected. And so I might do that with a lot of love because of relationship, not because of religion. I mean, not because it can turn into religion really easy, and the whole time I can be cursing my husband in my head while I'm sweeping the floor. And then it's religion. And then it's not relationship at all. But the moment, even though I go through the motions sometimes, I know that the real love comes when it's about relationship and not the rules and not doing the right thing, just because you're supposed to. So all that to say, I learned this in my relationship with my kids too. And one of the things that I want to say, I feel like God has been teaching me this week with my kids, is that my son is 8 now, my oldest, and he's been reading Big Nate. He likes Big Nate. And Big Nate is 11, and my son is beginning to act a little bit 11-ish. And Big Nate thinks grown-ups are, you know, all out to get you, and he's very sarcastic and whatever. So we got to talk about, we're talking about that, and but also I think my son also, I recognize, and I was like praying about it. I was like, God, what do I do? Like, he's being such a smart aleck. He's never been this way. Why is he being so mean to me? And I felt like the Lord showed me, he just showed me a picture of me being such a smart aleck to him. He's like, you talk like this to him sometimes. You know, you treat him disrespectfully sometimes, where you look at him like he's stupid, even though he understands what you're saying. You've asked him 1,000 times. He knows what you're going to say. And so he said, maybe you should apologize to him. I was like, okay. So I sat down with him, even though I wanted to be like, you need to go sit in your room, and you need to write blah, 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 you need to do this and that. I wanted to discipline him somehow for the way he just talked to me. I sat down with him, and I apologized to him for treating him the way he was treating me. And when I did that, my son transformed. It was amazing. I was like, you know, sometimes you're really smart, Josh. And I said, and you know what your rules are. You know the things that you shouldn't do. You know so much about that. And I don't have to keep telling you over and over again. Oh my gosh, when I said that, he just sat up, like his face was so soft. He's like, yeah, I do know. And I was like, and you know, sometimes I get frustrated and I speak to you so disrespectfully. I speak to you like you don't know what I know you know. I'm so rude about it, and I'm so sorry for talking to you like that. And I don't think that, you know, I should talk to you like that. And I need you to pray for me so that I will quit talking to you, talking down to you like you don't know more than you do. And he just kissed me, and he said, Mom, I forgive you. And he said, and I was like, and I didn't even have to get into it about how he was disrespecting me and being mean to me, because he just began to be so kind and it was amazing. So when I repented to him for the way he was treating me, then God actually transformed him in that moment, and it was it was amazing. So it's really important that whenever we're in a situation where we really keep going, what's wrong with that dude? What's wrong with that girl? What's wrong with this person? What's wrong with them? And you just feel this, like we want to, God, change them. That the first thing we need to do is ask God, how do you want to change me? How can you change me? Please change me the way you want to change me. If they never change, I want to change into what you look like. Help me. So that's what I wanted to share, and we're going to sing. What are we singing?
We are one.
Really? Okay, well, I do, but it's okay. We're going to try to remember how to sing We Are One. And if I need help, please help me, and we'll
Put the lyrics up for us.
take some time as well, and again, we'll sing. We've been talking about putting up all of our songs that are our songs together on a YouTube playlist, so that I can go back and listen to the songs we wrote together, like flip-back songs that you guys and I wrote.
On the live streams.
Yeah. What do you think of that? That'd be cool, huh?
Can you watch the baby?
Yeah. Making my goal to know nothing, keeping my eyes heart is full of joy. Hallelujah, we're together forever, together. Amen, amen, amen. You came to me and I'm saved. You came to me and I'm saved. You came to me and I am saved. Show us how to love like you, Jesus. Show us how to love like you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. You are my breath, you are my heart, Yeshua. You are my breath, you are my heart, Yeshua. You're so good, Father God. Oh, you're so good, Father God. Fill us with your love. Fill us with your love. Fill us with your love. You caught me in the dark, wrapped your arms around me, and I felt your heart. You caught me in the dark, wrapped your arms around me, and I felt your heart. You caught me in the dark, wrapped your arms around me, and I